Cecil 80, says, I've been doing commission props for people for the last year, and I'm very proud of my work, and I don't get any complaints until recently. What advice can you give to makers who do commissions and managing clients who are unhappy with their end results? Yeah, that's a tricky one, man. I've turned jobs in to clients who are like, that is not what I ordered. And I've had to redo those jobs. Look, it's a really straight equation. Either, well, if the client's not happy, all right, yeah. Okay, first off, it begins setting their expectations. The expectation setting is really important at the front. I talked about this a few weeks ago, being a small business starting out with clients. In every way, you cannot spend too much time getting super clear about what the job is and what the client expects, and what they can expect from you. And that very first conversation is when all of that stuff is super easy to say. Saying things like, this will be of a certain weight. It will have a certain feel. It will have this finish, and show them examples of the finish. You can tell them there are complaints they may have that you don't consider valid. You might think that this is blah, 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 when in fact I can't do that. So this is going to be what you're going to get. You may feel like they're doing a bait and switch, like they ordered one thing, but they want something that's twice as expensive to do. That's all. The best thing you can do at the beginning is try and run all of that off at the pass. But let's say you've done as best you can about that, and the client is still unhappy. You have three choices. Let's see. You can give back the money. You can keep the money and tell them to go to hell. You can redo the job. You can also negotiate giving back some of the money. That is feasible. The telling them to go to hell and keeping the money is only something to do if the client is being a real pill. That would be the absolute last resort ever, ever, ever. I don't want anyone out there thinking they have a legal claim to my dough. And so I would seek in every way to not have that be one of the outcomes. When I turned in a museum quality job to a client that wasn't to the quality he wanted, he was not wrong. And it took me about 7 months to turn that job around and deliver it again. He was not under a time crunch. And that was the job from hell. Like, it never ended. Oh my God. But it did end. And I did finally turn in a piece to the client that they were happy with. They asked me if I wanted to do more work for them, and I said no. And they were like, that is cool. I did one job for a client. It didn't work. But it wasn't me that made the call that it didn't work. It was their art director. He was like, I don't like this. And he pulled it out. And I thought, are they going to ask me for a refund because their art director didn't like it? And I was ready to fight for that. Like, it was a long story, but I was willing to take a pay cut, but I wasn't willing to refund the dough because I had earned my dough in trying to service what they wanted. That's what I felt. Luckily, they didn't even ask for a discount, which was them leaving money on the table. And sometimes clients can just be crazy, be really sane in the beginning and crazy at the end. Everybody who makes things, everybody who is going to embark on like selling stuff or like working for clients, freelance, you're gonna get screwed out of a paycheck. That is just like, it's going to happen. It's part of everyone's education that a client disappears. Early days of working for Jamie in special effects, it's like 94, there's a shop across the street. The shop across the street, this guy comes over, like we knew them because they were the shop across the street. He comes over and he's like, hey, I have this old boat my grandfather built. And it was this beautiful old steamship. And his grandfather had built it in the 60s with the 60s version of remote control, which means it had one channel. And that channel could activate an electromagnet that turned a switch that had 14 positions, and thus his grandfather had built a boat with 14 separate functions it could do, depending on how many times you clicked that one channel for that electromagnet. And he wanted it updated, so I put a new RC system in it. I think it was a fireboat. And I made the pumps work. I made it squirt water. And I gave it back to that guy. And he ghosted me for a few weeks, quit that job, never wrote to me again. That guy stole $2,000 from me. And I talked to him. I'm still upset about that. Somewhere there's a piece of crap out there who's enjoying his RC boat and knows that he stole it from me. Stole a couple, some money from me. It's going to happen. You're never going to get over it. That is part of being a person, man. It really is. I wish I could tell you otherwise. Kenny D says that he has come into possession of some ectoplasm from Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Very cool. They made their own. Do you have any suggestions on how to best preserve and or display it? It's funny you should ask, because I came back from set with some ectoplasm myself. I'm keeping mine in the fridge. It is an organic, it can go bad. So recognize that it can go bad, and I would keep it refrigerated. As for displaying it, what I'm considering, I still haven't started this search, but I want to find some little bottles so I can give some away to friends of mine. And I'd probably be looking for something that looked like a bit of lab glass, like a specimen jar, because that'll look neat and I'll make a nice little label for it. And then, to be fair, to make sure this stuff doesn't rot, I might get one of those nitrogen air savers. So when you work with urethane casting materials, they're hygroscopic. They want to draw water in them. So if you leave them open, they can gather water in. And if they do, they foam and they do all sorts of wacky crap when they have moisture in them. So if you are really taking good care of your urethane casting materials, every time you open them and use them, before you put them back, you're taking a little can and putting a little nitrogen in there and capping it so you don't have air and you don't get that oxidation response. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.